You hear me okay? That's good.
Test.
Test.
Testing.
Test. All right. Basically right up against my face.
Can you hear me? Okay. Lisa?
Test it. I think so. Yep. I can hear it now, can't you?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
And you have to leave it on, Mark. Mark,
And it's coming over the internet.
leave it on. Yeah, then it creates less
Hear
static.
everything I say then.
Oh, okay.
Huh?
Put it on mute.
Take a look.
All right, it is 6:30, so I'm going to call the council meeting to order. We'll begin by saying the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Alderman Birkey.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item is to adopt the agenda. Entertain a motion. Moved by Alderman Birkey. Is there a second? Second by Alderman Tufte. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Next item is approval of the minutes of November 16th, 2020. You've had a chance to take a look at those, review them. If there's no corrections or changes, I would entertain a motion to approve. Moved by Alderman Eckern. Is there a second? Second by Alderman Fargen. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? One abstention. Motion carried. Next item is approval of the bills for the city. You've had an opportunity to review them, look at them. If there are no questions, I would entertain a motion to approve. Motion by Alderman Fargen. Is there a second? Second by Alderman Birkey. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Visitors to be heard. Visitors to be heard is an opportunity for persons to address the city council on items not on the agenda. If the item can be handled administratively without council action, I'll refer it to the city administrator. If the item requires council action, it will be scheduled for an upcoming meeting. Persons wishing to comment on items on the agenda shall do so at the following of the presentation of the agenda item and after I open up the item for public comment. Are there any visitors to be heard? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to our first presentation by the Moody County District Soil Erosion Plan. Harvey Schaefer.
Okay, can you all hear me good? Okay, I'm Harvey Schaefer, manager of Moody Conservation District. I apologize, just as I got here, I should have printed off a copy for each one of you. But in the 70s, there was a soil erosion sediment control standard. It's under South Dakota Codified Law 38-8A. And in that law, it states that 62 conservation districts across the state have to come up with a standard, basically a process. If there's an erosion, you sign a form and then it gets investigated and the districts get involved if there's no settlement. And if it goes that far, we do have the ability to take it to court. And we adopted the first one in 1979. And there's been 3 revisions since then, 05, 07, and now in 2020. And basically the only thing we changed is because of the social media and Facebook, we had to take county out of our name. So everything else in the standard stayed the same. But we have to have all the cities in the county and the county commissioner sign this form. And the county commissioners approved it on November 17th. It was signed by the chairman. So basically that's all I have. It's just the standards for erosion control. Within the city, out in the country, anybody complains, we have the ability to go in and mediate any complaints.
Okay, are there any questions for Harvey? Yes, Alderman Peasall.
I can hear you. That's correct. The only thing that changed was we took county out of our name. We used to be Moody County Conservation District. So everything is the same as the codified laws that we had before. But we have to go through the whole process because we changed the name.
Jeff, is it?
I guess I'm not sure. Is this something, Harvey, the city council has to act on?
Yes, they have to act because they have to sign the form.
Okay, so is it okay if we put it on the next agenda? Will that work?
Yes,
for you?
that'll be just fine. And if you want me to, I can get copies for each one of you.
Yep, if you could actually just get it to the city office and Karen or Jeff, then we'll email it out to us.
Sure,
and we'll
that'll
have
be
it that
fine.
way.
That'll be
great.
fine.
Just
I can do that, yes.
any other questions for Harvey? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Yep, thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Our next item on the agenda is proposal to purchase the Japanese Gardens Pavilion. Kyle Haug.
Hi, pretty much all you know me. My name's Kyle Haug with Parley Group out of Brookings. What I'm here tonight is to talk to you about the Japanese Gardens of the park. Our company would like to acquire it from the city and renovate it, excuse me, back to what it had been 101 years ago when it was built. It's the last actual ballroom still standing in East River, South Dakota. I don't know if there's any in southwestern Minnesota or not. So it's pretty much the only one anywhere around. The building has got a lot of damage to it from the flooding last year and just various other things over the course of time that are maintenance issues that need to be addressed. We've had a structural engineer look at the building. We've looked at the floor, which was hurt pretty bad in that last flood. There's on the east wall, there's some of the main columns that are sinking due to the foundation eroding. And so there's a lot of moving parts to what we want to do, but initially if our trust company could acquire the property, then we could move in and start renovating it. That would allow the people of the city to still use it the way they have all along. It could be used for dances, anything of that nature. We're not going at this from a business standpoint. It's not a profit thing to us. It's our love of the city, which I believe we're probably showing with what we're doing downtown with our properties. We've put a substantial investment into them and still will continue to. The way that we can make this work is we can do it through our tax credits or our trust because it's taxed at a higher level, so the investment would offset our income and taxes to the government. And then since it's on the historic registry, the property can be depreciated for 31 and a half years. So that's where it would come in, and we could fund it basically through what would be our tax dollars. So it'd be all self-funded. It's just something that we think that the city needs. It needs to stay here for future generations. Pretty much all of us have memories of dances out there and different events. My wife and I had our wedding reception out there. My brother was married out there. You know, we all have good memories of the place. It needs somebody to come in and put the time and money into it that is required. You know, my wife and I have a lot of history in historic renovations all over the state and some in Minnesota, so we know what we're doing. We've got the connections to do the parts that need to be done that we can't, you know, but it's a big project that we would love to tackle. Any questions?
Questions? Karen, Alderman Tufte.
You would maintain the, if there was a wedding dance, then that would go through the city just the same as it always has?
No, all the maintenance and the bookings and things of that nature would come back to our company, and we would handle that. So the city would actually be out of it in that respect. So they wouldn't have the insurance, they wouldn't have the maintenance, they wouldn't the interaction with the people, the scheduling, things of that nature. It would actually be our entity that takes care of that.
I have another.
Alderman Tufte, continue.
Kyle, what about the kitchen and the appliances and everything that's in there, and who takes care of, I mean, you would take care of that and fix the kitchen and everything? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, part of our plan is actually to install a commercial kitchen in there, which allows the property to be used for more, you know, wedding dances and things, so the caterers have room to work with. And so there'd be upgrades like that to it, and that's all, you know, the cost of the equipment, the maintenance of the equipment, that's all our issue.
Any other questions? Alderman Peasaw.
Yeah, and I spoke with Jeff a little bit about this, you know, as far as the land and everything involved with it. And so, yeah, it would make sense for the city to have the first right of refusal for the purchase. The trust actually belongs to my little girls, which are 7 and 9. So, you know, it's going to be their problem well after it's mine, you know. So, no, that's, you know, we don't, it would just basically sit there and for our company to be used for, I don't know how the best way to say it, but it would stay there in our company with no intention to ever sell it. If it was ever sold, yeah, we would sell it back to the city. And maintenance on it, it would be, I also thought, you know, it's going to be probably a couple-year renovation, you know, mainly because we can't do a lot of the work like this time of year. The first part of the building actually has to be lifted up and the foundation repaired before we can do a whole heck of a lot more. So, I mean, all those issues would be addressed too with it, and so all the maintenance costs and everything would fall on us. As far as the land underneath it, there's always the issue of how do you separate it, you know, so we have a home on Lake Ponset that's on a 99-year land lease. You know, we own the home, we have a conventional mortgage on it, but there's a lease on the land, and that's probably the cleanest, easiest way to do it, especially since it's in a city park, to try to figure out how to separate it from everything else.
Any other questions? Comments? Jeff?
First, by way of comment, my recommendation would be that the next step would be for the council to ask Mr. Hogg to submit a detailed plan detailing these things that he has referred to, including, you know, timelines, so that you would have all that information in detail and the comfort of seeing it documented, because the assumption might be that would carry over into some kind of a sales contract. There are state laws that impact municipalities on the transfer of property. I think, Mayor, it'd be a good idea to ask the city attorney to brief you on those tonight. I don't think that'll take very long.
Yes. Corey, do you want to answer that? Then Kyle, we'll invite you back to the mic here. So just
The short version is, if we want to dispose of property owned by the city, we're going to need to first declare it a surplus, and then the standard is that we would need to submit it out for bids. I'd have to look and see if there's any exception I could come up with as to the reason we ways around that if we weren't going to do that. But the standard starting place is you have to declare it surplus, and then after surplus we submit it to the for bids and go from there.
Alderman Peasaw.
I believe at a 99-year lease we do get a little bit of flexibility on that. But I will confirm just to make sure that we're all dealing with the same complete set of information.
Okay. Any other questions for Corey at this time? Okay. Kyle, what do you think about putting together a detailed plan, something on paper to present, so the council at least has something to look at? You know, you and I visited about this, and this is a big step for the city. It's a historic landmark. You know, we definitely want to make sure that it's here for future generations to use. So we want to make sure whatever the future of it is, that the future is in good hands. And so, you know, that would give us something to look at to make sure that we're all on the same page on everything. Okay. Any other questions for Kyle at this time? We will definitely be able to have future conversations with him on this topic, but I definitely appreciate your innovativeness and willingness to invest again in our community. So,
Well, I guess I would just mention, just for information purposes, and I've pointed this out to Kyle, and we've discussed it too, and it could come into play in the conveyance, or maybe it's something that would be something that could be worked out to be accomplished by the city ahead of that time. But we do have a FEMA payment that is in hand for the replacement of the floor. It is considerably less than what the projected cost is, because as you recall, our payment was reduced because we didn't have floodplain insurance. So it is $50,000, which is a sizable sum of money. And I believe that we have a spring deadline to spend that, I want to say end of May, June. And it's possible that that could be extended. I would say, however, that it is a fact that that money is specific to the floor and the damage to the floor. So in the event that it was determined mutually that the floor was going to be replaced, it's maybe something that could be accomplished ahead of execution of any kind of a contract, maybe outside of it, or perhaps Mr. Hoag's position would be that there will be other options, possibly even including repair at a much smaller fee, in which case I guess the city would find a way to return the money to FEMA. But I just want to remind the council that we do have that in hand.
So one thing with the floor, just to give you some numbers on that, it's for replacement of it, it's about $90,000 to $100,000 replacement. It can be repaired for 50 to 60,000 range, most likely, unless there's some nightmare that we can't see. We had a flooring expert come in and look at it, and I mean, it's a beautiful floor. It's absolute top end maple. You know, it'd be a shame to pull it out, because I don't think you'd ever find that nice of flooring again. You know, but it's I guess it's kind of up in the air. There's some parts of it that can't be repaired, like along the benches. It's waving like this, you know, and that's got to be removed and replaced. And so there's also the issue of maybe not being able to match the flooring again. So there's a lot of variables in the floor repair at this point. So.
Any other questions at this time? Yes, Alderman Tufty.
guesstimate for the cost that it would need to repair the building?
So what we've looked at on it, there's basically how we'd go about it. We intend to lift the building, put a new foundation under it, bring the building up a few feet higher. There's some issues with that, whether it can be done just because of the water table out there. You have to dig 6 foot deep, 4 foot wide trenches under the building for 100 and some feet to be able to lift it. I don't know if a guy can get that deep without it filling up with water. So that is about $50,000 to dig the trenches and lift the building, and it's probably another 20 to 30 to put the foundation under it. You got the floor, the shingles they're starting to age a little bit. We would actually end up putting the wood shakes back on it, which it originally had, to give it that look. A lot of the wood on the exterior of the building is rotted, and so that would need to be replaced. There's the variable of the paint on the building, whether it's lead-based or not. And so if it's lead-based, then we would have to collect all the paint as it came off and have that done by a company out of Minneapolis. There's a lot of variables in it. We're figuring the $300,000 to $400,000 range to get it back to what it was, and that's making it ADA accessible, replacing probably, depending how it would work out with the city, if we were able to use the new public bathrooms, we'd remove the bathrooms off the back of the building. Otherwise, we'd rebuild them, put nice restrooms on the building. Those are something that are actually in bad shape anyway. One of them is separating from the building. And so, we're at the $300,000 to $400,000 range probably by the time it's done. So.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Seeing none, thank you very much, Kyle. We'll look forward to hearing from you, and then we will continue the conversation.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Have a great night. Next item is administrative reports. My report is I had an opportunity today to meet with tribal leadership, FDC leadership, Jeff and myself, kind of at our monthly or quarterly meeting that we just kind of see where things are going and what's happening in each of our governmental entities. Of course, I shared with the tribe and the FDC our ongoing efforts with the fire station and with the dam project and other things. The community, they are excited. If you haven't been out by the tribal ground out there, you will see they have a bunch of black dirt moved as they plan for their nursing home facility out there. The tribe did come with an interesting proposal that I will share with you later on in the meeting about the fire station. But it was a good meeting. It was good to hear some of the exciting things they're looking at. Of course, they've spent a lot of time figuring out how they're going to handle the recreational marijuana type issues. If they want to create a lounge atmosphere, what do they want to do? So they're doing a lot of research on how they can capture that market in a safe and responsible way. So it was good to hear a little bit about those efforts. So I think it's been good and meaningful to have an opportunity to sit down and discuss face to face on a fairly regular basis what everybody's doing. So we just kind of work together. I know that they will be instrumental partners with us in our fire station going forward, either as a participant in the grant writing or financial or both. Also, in the dam project, they're interested with that because of the Crescent Street Bridge and their participation and what's going to go back into that area. So we have a lot of joint opportunities moving forward to work as a community and work with the tribal government on moving some of our initiatives within the community forward in a positive way that will positively affect generations to come. Other than that, I don't know if all of you had an opportunity to see the parade. I want to just thank the holiday parade, those that put the effort together to orchestrate that. I haven't seen that many people on Main Street since the sesquicentennial celebration a few years ago. So it was good to see people out and about and see so many people that are continue to support our small businesses here in Flandreau. So that was positive, and I think people really just needed something refreshing and positive and in a safe atmosphere to attend. So for all the participants that put floats together, great job. It was good to salute our hometown heroes and just appreciate the efforts of those putting that event together. So with that, that's all I have. Turn it over to Jeff.
Thanks, Mayor Sutton. The effort to produce another alternative for the dam that would include a, let's call it a recreational river, for lack of a better term, for boaters and kayakers, may be ready next meeting. It's taking a little time for Bar Engineering to pull together the resources, most especially another firm that they want to consult with who has experience with that. We are having a meeting later this week to talk about that alternative a little bit, so they'll start work at the end of the week and might have something available for next meeting, if not certainly the first meeting in January on that. Regarding the bridge, I have been contacted by the firm that has been awarded the design contract by the DOT for demolition of all of the bridges that were awarded demolition grants, in the person of Ms. Vanessa Victor, who is the principal in charge of putting together the demolition contracts. And we conversed a little bit on some details associated with the demolition of our bridge, most especially how the approaches should be left on either side. I learned something I wasn't aware of, maybe just a little naive to it, but the grant that we received does include demolition of the approaches, so I was glad to hear that. So the way we left that was that the approaches on either side of the bridge will essentially curve over down to the access roads to the dam and end at that point. So there will be a radius constructed with a curb that people will turn into to go down to the dam, but they won't get any further to the present location of the bridge than that. Also, as part of the grant, the state will demolish the road beds leading up to the bridge, as well as obviously all of the structure below the bridge. So, and I did share that information with the tribe today, discussed it with the president, and we pretty much agreed that it was highly unlikely that any of that would or could be reused in a new bridge design anyway, because it's a big assumption that the same elevation, the same grades would be used, much less the pretty well deteriorated abutment material and all of that down there. So it just makes sense to get it all done in one shot here. So again, we do have accord with the tribe on that. Received a letter from Mediacom that they're going to put in place a general rate increase at the first of the year. I neglected to bring the letter with me. I'll send it all to you. I'm not sure if Mediacom is contacting the newspaper or not, but I'll do that to make sure that the newspaper is aware of it. I'll put some information on our website. It doesn't appear to be huge increases, and I think in at least one case there's some streamlining taking place, somewhere between some bundling or some connection between internet and cable TV that would actually save people money if they choose that. So it's not all bad news in the sense of a rate increase, but generally speaking, most tiers will go up slightly. Community Center, just want to let you know that it is essentially dark. Some folks that had expressed interest in holiday events had all canceled, which I think is a wise thing. So there's really very little activity taking place in here right now during the pandemic and the holiday season. So I think that's probably a testimony to the caution that it's being shown in the community for the spread of the pandemic. I want to talk a little bit about the electric department, if I might. As you know, we had Missouri River Energy in a meeting or two ago to present their operation management contract, visit with you about that, because I think it's one option that is there for the city as we look forward. Let me say, look ahead. I didn't mean to look forward to transition in that department, but looking ahead, as you know, Mr. Schlintz has informed me that he intends to retire next fall. As it stands right now, we are really not in a position to promote within the department to the superintendent position. So we need to be pursuing another plan for that. The Missouri River proposal, while it endorsed the idea of two people in the department, such as what we have changed to in the last year or so ago, comes with a pretty hefty price tag. And I think that caught all of your attention, as it did mine. I assured you before we brought Missouri River in that in fact the city could afford it, but affording it and being willing to pay that additional amount of money are two different issues. It's about $150,000 difference between what we're spending right now. That's a lot of money. What is driving this? Well, what is driving it is our concern about our ability to go out in the market and recruit for the superintendent position at the pay scale that we're paying now. Having done a little more research on that, I'm absolutely convinced that we will not be able to. A survey that I conducted of similar size municipal electric utilities in the state reveals that our pay scale is about 20 to 25% below market. That's not a good position to recruit from. And I think that it would be a futile effort to even attempt to do that. My suggestion is that we bolster our pay scale in recognition of that fact and the need to begin the recruitment process in the fairly near term, so that we have in place the proper personnel necessary to operate that most vital public utility. So I want to let you know tonight that I will be bringing before you, hopefully at the next meeting, if not the following meeting at the latest, a proposal for revision to the wage scale in the electric department for both positions of superintendent and also lineman. We have just one other position, so our expectation would be that that would continue as a journeyman lineman position, although it's possible going forward, depending on circumstances, that that position could be occupied by someone in the journeyman status. As it is now, our second lineman is classified as a journeyman, so it is at the journeyman level that I am comparing that with the survey in the city market out there. I'll talk more about scenarios at that meeting. It's not a given necessarily that we would be successful recruiting at market. That would likely be our starting point, but I think I will share some additional thoughts with you at that meeting, or perhaps a little down the road as we get closer to starting that recruitment, about what may be the need to maintain some flexibility. What you're hopefully getting some sense of is that while we're not talking about insignificant dollars to revise our wage scale to market, we're talking about just a portion of the difference between what we are spending now and what we would spend to exercise the option of going with Missouri River Energy Services. So that's the good news. The municipal electric utility is extremely important to this community. It's amongst the largest responsibilities that the City Council has. It is perhaps the most complex operation that we run, perhaps the most volatile operation that we run. It is clearly the largest operation that we run financially, and it's essential that we have in place the resources to do that effectively. It's a vital public service. People depend on it for their livelihood. So with all those things in mind, and I think encouraged by the progress that's been made in the utility over the past several years, the condition that it's in, we couldn't be in a better position operationally to look forward to the success of that utility, beginning with the decision of Mayor Von Rood and past city councils to reinvest approximately $5 million in that utility to convert it from overhead to underground and to upgrade a lot of the operational components in it was huge. It really reduces the risk factor and increases the reliability factor. It also reduces the potential for outages and the need for crewmen to be called out. Also, we have in the last couple of years introduced a lot of technological improvements to that utility, and we're embarking right now, as we talk about from time to time, on the conversion to the smart meter program, the advanced meter infrastructure, if you will, and we've talked about all of the operational efficiencies that will bring about, including quicker response times to outages when they do occur, easier capability to locate problems, the ability to be alerted to developing problems in the utility, the need to handle customer service type activities remotely rather than in the field. It's all huge steps forward, and both those projects, of course, are a lot of the reason combined. They are the reason combined for our ability to transform from a 3-person crew to a 2-person crew. So it's all good. Call it growing pains if you want, but you all have put the utility in a tremendous position going forward, and it's just, you know, the only thing we need to do now is make sure that we have the personnel in place to allow it to thrive with everything that has been done to rebuild it. So I have one more thing here, but I can't read my own writing, so if I remember it later, I'll bring it up. Thank you.
All right. Any questions for Jeff? Yes, Alderman Eckern.
Councilman Farge and myself visited the Klondike Dam down at Inwood, Iowa last week. And personally, I was not impressed with it at all, what they did there. I think some of the problem was they're dealing with Iowa and South Dakota to cooperate to do this thing. And there's no place to put a boat or anything in there. It's just really primitive. So we did do that. You'll have to ask Councilman Farge what he thought of it.
Kind of a ditto, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Well, good. I appreciate you guys taking the opportunity to drive down and take a look at that, and we'll enter that into the conversation. We get further into the bridge stuff and share that information. But the more information we can get, the better. Is there any questions for Jeff or I?
I guess just to piggyback off Mark's comment, Dan or Jeff, did the tribe have any input on those discussions about with dam reconstructions, and did you guys review any of those options? Are they aware of the options? Have they had the opportunity to give some feedback on that?
I talked when I met with Chairman Reeder individually. I then forwarded him all the proposals to make and today I asked him if he had shared those with his council. He said he had. So they are all the information that we have. They have in front of them, but it doesn't sound like they've really formulated any support or action or direction at this point. But knowing that I invited them to continue to be a part of the conversation. So I don't know, Jeff, if they added any more after I had to leave.
I don't recall that it really came up. I think it would seem to me that getting rid of the hazard is number one. I mean, that's and that was accomplished at the Klondike Dam. I mean, to give it that credit anyway. But beyond that, all that was done there was some rock arches to recreate a fish habitat, and I've heard various versions of whether that's good or not. I think the thing that's not there anymore is the same thing that won't be here anymore, and that's a huge scour hole under what was formerly the dam, where fish tended to congregate in great quantity. But it seems to me that kind of the sense I'm getting is that the conversation with the tribe and other stakeholders, particularly the community at large, would be around, okay, what more do we want to make out of this than simply getting rid, well, not simply, than getting rid of the hazard and restoring fish habitat? Do we want to do more? And that gets down to two things. What is it that we want to create in the river that attracts people to be on the river? And then associated with that, and maybe growing with that as those features would increase in the river, maybe, like what they did in the two eastern Iowa towns, is what kind of bankside accommodations, amenities, conveniences might make sense to go along with all of that. And that kind of quickly gets into the bigger issue, I guess, that I think we all had in mind, but really weren't thinking about necessarily discussing or trying to outline this early is, okay, so the dam's gone and everything else. What other kind of things can be done down there now to make that more attractive, more convenient, and all these kind of things? Clearly, Manchester and Charles City, Iowa, did things to attract people to their whitewater kayaking and canoeing area, including building grass areas, rock seating areas on the banks, even to the point of encouraging and probably incentivizing private investment in those areas. So I don't know, where that all takes us, but that next option, it seems to me, if we're interested in doing something like that, pretty much necessitates broadening the discussion. Okay, so if we're looking at putting a destination, boating, rafting, whatever place down there, we probably need to be thinking about making it safer to get to, more convenient, more attractive, and all that kind of thing. In other words, it could grow pretty quick and pretty big.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, I entertain a motion to approve administrative reports. Motion by Alderman Tufte. Is there a second? Second by Alderman Unger. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Next item is old business, a second reading of Ordinance 601, an ordinance that amends existing Title VII offenses. Any questions, discussion, or action? Yes, Alderman Peasaw.
ladies and gentlemen, this is going to get abused. Just plain and simple. I really don't think it gets defended.
Alderman Unger?
I generally agree with Bob, and just the discussion last meeting was essentially that this fills a void. The state law covers public acts and acts on public grounds. What this is intending to address is acts on private property or in your private capacity. I think generally it would achieve that. I mean, it does cover that gap, but I agree with Bob for all of the same reasons. I think it opens a door, and it's written. I think Jeff mentioned last meeting that it was intentionally written in a vague way, so that we're not getting too bogged down in details when it comes time for enforcement. I'm not sure either way is right or wrong, but I agree with Bob. The first section you read, or second, this subsection B, by loud or unreasonable noise. Well, loud noise is, I don't know what loud noise is, but loud noise to me or Bob might be something completely opposite to Dan or Karen. And so there's no real way for this to be enforced or applied in any sort of uniform way, at least at the outset, until it gets kind of hashed out a bit. But overall, what this I think suggests is that instead of going over to your neighbor's house and saying, hey, can you turn the radio down? We're going to call the cops on them, and somebody's going to have to deal with a criminal enforcement where it could have just been handled another way. Now, maybe there are instances that I'm not aware of where people are trying to do that and trying to resolve this in some way, and they're just getting nowhere. That's my assumption. That's my understanding of how this was kind of brought forward. But I think in the balance, we're better off encouraging people to be good citizens without this kind of heavy-handed criminal approach. So some extra commentary, and I think it covers a little bit of what Bob wasn't sure about, because it's not totally overlap like you suggested, but I agree with a lot of the reasons for not supporting it.
Alderman Bierke?
Okay, the other way around. But Bob, you were saying that we've already got a state law for that, and this really do what we're thinking.
Alderman Peasall? Corey, do you want to address the way it was written?
A little bit. This is the language is pulled almost entirely from Brookings' statute on disturbing the peace, almost verbatim. There's only a couple of words different in it, including most of the ones that you didn't highlight any of the words that were different. It is put out there. The Lee Deadwood has about a 7-page statute on this, including various decibel levels, that is actually very, very objective and able to be determined whether or not you're involved in violation very easily. However, you're then talking about equipping everyone with decibel meters and a whole bunch of cost and effort for what would hopefully be a rather small event for something like a house party that really probably should have been a little bit quieter the first time someone stopped over to ask and said, hey guys, can you turn it down? The originations to this, law enforcement had given us feedback that they didn't feel like they had the authority to shut down certain things if it was on the private side. If there was a party going, something to the effect of the neighbors kind of complaining, if they walked up without being, without threatening the disorderly conduct, they didn't feel like they had a more moderate version to talk to someone about.
Further comments? And it originated from a constituent in Flandreau that had a noise issue with a neighbor across the street playing music too loud, and he's sitting in his living room, called law enforcement, and law enforcement said there's nothing we can do. So that's kind of the derivative of where this came from. So anyway, looking for action on the item. Yes. Motion is made by Alderman Peasall to table the pending ordinance. Is there a second? Second by Alderman Bierke. Is there, no, there's no discussion on a tabling motion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Next item, new business. Resolution 2020-14, transfer from the contingency fund. Is that Karen?
Yep, that's me. That's me. When we did the 2020 budget, we set aside or allocated $25,000 in a contingency fund for those types of items that we didn't budget, but it came up during the budget year. And last spring, when council approved hiring Weiss Associates to do the golf course study, it was approved with a determination to be done at a later date on where to take the funds from. And it's my recommendation to use the contingency fund of $25,000. If you look on this second page of the notes, you can see that $23,500 is for the golf course analysis, $500 because of course we had an overrun on election expenses due to COVID, and also $1,000 for civil defense because the community safe room number 2 did not close at the end of 19, and we didn't get the final pay invoice from the engineers until this last summer. So,
Okay, any questions? Entertain a motion to approve. Motion by Alderman Unger, seconded by Alderman Fargen. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. First reading of Ordinance 602, Supplemental Appropriation Ordinance. Karen?
Again, I provided you a worksheet, well, a copy of the ordinance and the departments or funds that ran over that we have to supplement. It doesn't necessarily mean that we spent a whole lot more money overall than we were supposed to. It's just that some of them, and you can see in the notes, that they ran over, and a great majority of them are going to be reimbursed out of the capital improvement project, like the items we did at Duncan Park. We have to supplement it because that department ran over because of the expense, but we do have the offsetting revenue to take care of it because you had approved taking it out of CIP. And I think, has everybody had a chance to look over the notes I provided and have any questions regarding any of them?
Are there any questions on the notes that Karen provided for the supplemental appropriation ordinance?
If you look on that very last page that I provided a breakdown on the revenue and expenditures per department, you can see that the bottom line on the revenue for the general fund and the special revenue fund, which is the BB&B, we have approximately $6,000 less in revenue estimated through the end of the year. However, if you look on the expenditure side, we underspent by approximately $174,000. So we're supplementing because particular items ran over and we're required by statute to do that. But it's not necessarily that, the funds are there. Everything that you see as a decrease on the revenue side can be pretty much directly related to a COVID issue, like the aquatic center. We generally have $40,000 to $45,000 revenue that we didn't receive, but by the same token, we didn't spend the usual $130,000 there either. So I just provided that so you could kind of see where we were at as far as an estimate for year-to-date revenue and expense. And I don't anticipate there being any changes unless we have a big unanticipated expense between now and the next council meeting.
Okay, want to thank Karen for putting that informative information together for us in a format that we can understand.
Hopefully.
Are there any questions at this time for Karen? It is first reading, so we won't act on it until our next meeting. So, all right, seeing none, we will move forward to our next item, approve land acquisition for the fire station. In front of you, you have a new purchase agreement that mimics and mirrors the one you had in your packet, except it has the other individual's initials and signatures on it as of today. So I wanted to make sure that you had that in front of you. Our city administrator has signed it. Before I discuss a little bit about it, I once again want to take the opportunity to thank the task force for their hard work of identifying the areas in the community, putting together a proposal, identifying their top 3 choices, of which this is one of them. And so Kevin Christensen, Alderman Fargen, Lenny Jansen, Don Peters, and Josh Weston, once again want to thank you for your time in putting this together. Before you, you have a map. The property we're talking about is to the south side of the courthouse. It might be a little bit larger area than what you first anticipated, but it was an opportunity that if you're going to buy some, you're going to acquire it all. And I think that allows us to be creative with the usage of that property and in control of it to get the best and most best use out of it. Karen put together a map today that you will see the black highlight areas on the map are kind of the outside configuration of the property. And then you will see 2 areas that are not in black. One is an orange strip through the middle there below East Railroad Street. That is a dedicated street through the kind of the middle of the property that at some point the city, probably my recommendation would be, is that is vacated and so that it can be built on. And then you will see a turquoise or blue or turquoise type area there. Through all my research on this, I knew that this was going to be probably questioned by individuals, so I'm going to try to answer it best I can. That turquoise property, we would be owning an undivided interest in that property with Scott and Brenda Duncan. They currently own that with Dave and Deb Allers. That was the old railroad that went through there, and so when the railroad dissolved and was taken out of the community, adjacent property owners had the opportunity to acquire that ground first. So they did acquire it together. I visited with Brenda Duncan today just to talk about how that would happen and their thoughts on it. I know that they'd been in discussion with the selling party, and Brenda indicated that when they would get back from their vacation, that they would be willing to sit down and visit with us on getting that cleared up, so that there was a definite ownership in part of that, and that we would then work with them on the other part and somehow split that property up there, so it would give best use to both them with the elevator they're currently using on the corner, and then it would tie all of our property together. The purchase agreement does require a survey, so when that survey is done, at that point, that would give us good, clean legal descriptions and boundaries in order to establish with Scott and Brenda what area they would want there that would fit in with their corner property. I think this is a great opportunity for Flandreau. We had 3 really good, viable options that the committee put forward. The tribe at this time was not. It was not in their best interest at this time to release the Schulte property. And then across the Development Corporation and Gordy Jones were both willing to sell their property if that was the choice of the council to do so. And then the tribe today at our meeting came with a proposal that they would maybe deed us some ground across from the convenience store there where they shoot off fireworks, as another option for us if we needed it. I was not expecting that today. I appreciated that effort and that innovativeness and willingness to partner with us on that. But after I visited with them a little bit about this property over there, they were fine and supportive of that. They just wanted us to know that they were willing to, they were trying to think outside of the box of another area property that they owned and controlled that might work for us to locate a fire station if one of these other areas didn't work out. So other than that, it's a straightforward purchase agreement. The seller is requiring that they can still use the property for parking and those types of things on or before we would start to build. They would then relocate, and possibly even after we build, that they might still be able to use a portion of the property for parking if they don't have something else built. But other than that, it's a straightforward purchase agreement. So don't know if anybody has any questions. Open it up at this time. It's an exciting day for Flandreau. So if there's no questions, I'd entertain a motion to proceed forward with the purchased. Motion by Alderman Peasall. Is there a second? Second by Alderman Bierke. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Alderman Bierke. Yeah, I can do it again. Yeah, I did say it, I think. Yep. But I'll say it again, Kevin Christensen, Alderman Fargen, Lenny Jansen, Don Peters, and Josh Weston, they did a dynamite job and got us some viable options. And I'm today, through their hard work, we're able to move forward a proposal for a new fire station. Now, with that, we have the motion approval. Jeff, the only thing we probably got to talk about maybe just for a second is funding of this or payment of this. You and I visited a little bit about, and Karen, that we could probably initially use maybe some of the CIP funding. Jeff?
Yeah, thanks, Dan. Well, yeah, in fact, that's probably our only best option at this time, which in all likelihood would commit then that amount of money to the project budget from that source. I don't think it's probably too likely that there would be a way found down the road to replenish the CIP. And I don't guess it's probably the case that the council was not anticipating that we would draw down from the CIP for some portion of this project. So we have not established a project budget yet, so it would be somewhat speculative to project what portion of the total project cost that this 170 out of the CIP would be, but I would guess somewhere in the third, third to fourth, something like that. So it's a fair amount of it, I guess, and probably falls within the realm of what the council members might have expected would need to be drawn from CIP. And there may be more need to be drawn. So minimally, I would say is probably the way to look at this. This is what it would take from the CIP for this project.
Thank you very much. Moving forward with our next item, CARES Act Fund Reimbursement Update. Jeff or Karen?
Well, I just want to say Karen put a lot of work into this, so I'm proud of what she did, and as did Betty and others, compiling, setting aside these receipts as things came in, and really trying to, obviously use the money for what it was intended to, but also endeavor to, in fact, claim as much of the state allocation as we could.
Yeah, we're being as creative as we can. Back when we did the budget, I think we estimated we were going to get around $360,000. For some reason, that sticks in my mind. And our allocation is actually $523,000, a little over. And I think when it's all said and done, based on what we've already received, and I provided you a worksheet that shows that, we've already received almost $428,000. So we're well over what we anticipated we were going to get last summer. I still have another $65,000 in claims, so that leaves approximately $96,000 left in the fund to try to get reimbursed for. And I anticipate we'll be able to submit additional claims of approximately $65,000. So I think when it's all said and done, we'll probably be leaving $30,000 to $35,000 on the table that we won't be able to submit claims for. But they've been very generous on the police, on the public safety wages. We're able to get reimbursed for Social Security, Medicare, retirement, any health or dental. I think I can submit for work comp as well. And of course, we have dispatching that we were able to get reimbursed for. And then, of course, we have the expenses associated with setting up here, and then overrun on the election, and PPE that we've purchased for the office. So it's going to be a lot more than we had originally anticipated. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, I just want to thank and the council and everybody, thank Karen for all of her hard work and identifying these expenses and getting them so that what we anticipated is nothing to what we were able to achieve because of finding those expenses and making sure that we we're able to submit everything possible to get our reimbursement. So to Jeff and Karen and staff, thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Next item is to write off outstanding utility counts from 2019. This is an annual type of an item that we address on the council addresses. Karen?
Yeah, we, both Betty and Crystal are very proactive about collecting. If anybody shows up and they have an outstanding bill, they're great. They collect money. They do. Our policy is to not put services into someone else's name unless we can collect that. But we do run into those scenarios, of course, where people leave town and we have no idea where they are, or there might be a death. But I'm recommending and asking for approval of any outstanding utility bills as of 12/31/19. They total $9,289.93, which is a little less than 0.25% of our total utility billing revenue for 2019. So very minimal. 34 accounts that we've been unable to collect.
Are there any questions? If not, Alderman Unger?
Not really a question, but if I remember this from last year, the number sounds familiar with what we did last year in terms of the percentage. I remember it being under 1%.
Oh, yeah. I think it was right around a 0.43 or something like that. It was less than 1%.
So knowing that this is within our kind of range of comfort, I think you were going to ask for a motion.
I was. You make the motion? Alderman Unger makes the motion to approve writing off the outstanding utility accounts for 2019. Is there a second? Second by Alderman Eckern. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. The next item on the agenda is to grant Christmas Eve as a special holiday in recognition of essential employees. It kind of comes in the spirit of appreciation. It's something I feel the council can do to show our employees, one, that we care, two, that we appreciate the hard work that they've had to do in this new normal that we've all had to live with and work through. There is no perfect plan out there, but I think we all can agree that our city employees have stepped up to the plate, done a fantastic job, and this is one way for us to say thank you in a minimal way, but on the same token, I think sometimes the little things you do for your employees go a long way. And so I am asking for the council to approve this and grant Christmas Eve this year as a special holiday in recognition of essential employees, and also to know that if law enforcement or somebody is on call, or if one of our sewer guys or electrical guys get called in, that Jeff would allow them that time at a later time, because there are sometimes emergencies, and we wouldn't want them to be shorted that opportunity of that special Christmas Eve holiday recognition for the essential employees. So I think it's something important for us to do. It's a step in recognition, so I am entertaining a motion to approve that. Motion by Alderman Bierke. Is there a second? Second by Alderman Tufte. Any further discussion? Alderman Unger.
Just in case it's an issue, can we just call it the December 24th?
I think that's fine. We can. Is that a friendly amendment? Yep. To say December 24th. Yes. Okay. We have a motion and a second. Jeff, do you have anything to add to it?
None other than I can assure you this will be greatly appreciated by the employees.
Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Council comments. All I have is, Tom and Lisa have worked really hard with us to get these microphones to work. Every time it's getting better and better and better. And I've heard from viewers online that the listening and viewing experience is getting better and better. So I don't know if Tom and Lisa are behind the door. I think they probably are. Oh, they're over there. They're not behind they're back, hiding behind the curtain. But anyway, I want to thank you for your efforts on helping us to with our council meetings and with our microphones and stuff like that. It's not easy, but I want to thank you for all your efforts. Any other council comments? Seeing none, I adjourn the meeting at 7:45. Thank you.